today we have another session and another video of an extreme dignitary of one of the finest colleges, Amity University, Chhattisgarh, with us today. We have Chancellor of Amity University, Chhattisgarh, Dr. Selva Murthy, with us. Thank you, Dr. Selva Murthy, for being with us today, for sharing your valuable time. And again, this is a series that we have launched, College Dunia as a Team, Thoughtful Leadership. This is part of Thoughts for Education initiative that we have conducted to bridge the gap between the parents, students, and the universities. So thank you, Dr. Sir, for being here with us today and sharing your valuable time.
Thank you, Mr. Dhruv, and it's a pleasure to interact and reach out to the people through this particular program in College Dunia today. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you, sir. So you're a renowned industry professional and have held a key position at DRDO as well. What are the key factors that made you transition into the education sector?
My journey of life has been a blessing from God. A boy hailing from a village in Tamil Nadu who studied in a small college in a village which is only up to 8th standard. Then I had to go to by cycling to another government school in Ettayapuram, which is about four miles one way. So I have studied in such small schools, and then I moved to St. Xavier's College, Palayamkottai, for my graduation, then post-graduation in the Christian Medical College, Belur, and I did my doctorate from Delhi University, and also the DSc from Bangalore University. So if you see a journey hailing from a very small, modest family from a village, where my father did not have even money to send me to a college. So, but then it was my maternal uncle who supported the initial part of my education. Then I studied in scholarship. Why I am telling this, the life is full of excitement. The life, if you are determined and if you believe in God, that journey becomes beautiful. So my journey has been beautiful. So then after that, I started my career as a tutor in a medical college, St. John's Medical College, where I was also registered for PhD at that time initially. So I started my career as a teacher. So I have an academic interest at that time. I used to take a lot of interest. How do you communicate a message, a lesson, a curriculum to a student? So I used to spend a lot of time preparing, giving analogies, homologies, so that people will remember it, cognitive learning. So I started my career as a teacher for almost 1.5 years. I was there as tutor in St. John's Medical College. Then I moved to DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization, the Ministry of Defense, Government of India. It's a great organization. I would rate this as the best R&D organization, not only in the country, but in the world. Not because I served 40 years over there, but because they have, this organization, we have produced the strategic and the tactical research and development systems for the armed forces and have contributed tremendously to comprehensive national security, and particularly developing the strategic as well as tactical weapon systems. If you see DRDO today, it has grown from a small nucleus of a few laboratories. Today it's more than 50 laboratories. And we have 10,000 scientists, about 12,000 technical people, and then about 12,000 support staff. So it's 30,000 people. So it has grown like a great organization. And then the objective is to provide the strategic technologies like nuclear technology. Say, for example, today India is a nuclear power, and DRDO, our organization, played a very important role at that time in Pokhran 2. And so we have contributed to the transformation of India into nuclear power. Then not only transformation, that is working with atomic energy. We did that marvel of Pokhran 2. And then the second thing is developing a weaponization, and also since the government, India, being a very, very spiritual as well as a country of ahimsa, we went into a self-moratorium of no first use. So we had to have a second strike capability. So DRDO developed that second strike capability from land, air, water, underwater. So this is a great contribution which is never talked about. So the DRDO is one of the most important R&D contribution is in the strategic sector. Then coming to tactical R&D, DRDO has produced a very vast number of technologies, which will include right from aeronautics and also the missiles. And in missiles, if you take Agni, Prithvi, Akash, Nag, Trishul, BrahMos, interceptor missile, and Shaurya, Astra. So you see a family of missiles for different applications was developed to deliver a warhead. It could be a strategic warhead or a non-strategic conventional warhead. So today missiles, we are very, very self-reliant because for love, no country will be able to part with such technologies for love or money. So DRDO had to develop, in spite of the technology control regime, CTBT, NPT, with all these constraints, today DRDO has been able to deliver, construct these in a strategic position and kept there. So we are ready for a second strike if there is an eventuality. That's a big contribution of DRDO. Why I am telling is, I have spent 40 years and giving the prime part of my life, the whole life over there. And then we also have aeronautics. Today, light combat aircraft Tejas, which is a reality today. It's the fourth generation fighter aircraft, which is the digital cockpit, fly-by-wire, the modern avionics, and the airframe, 60% is composites. So you see, whatever the latest, the generation, fourth generation fighter aircraft, today India has produced, DRDO has produced. Now it is productionized and it is being already 2 squadrons being commissioned at Sulur near Coimbatore. And then many more orders have come, another 83 aircrafts have been ordered. And each aircraft, if it costs about 150 crores or 200 crores, you can imagine the country of wealth generation to the country. Besides developing a tacit knowledge to build a fighter aircraft, which flies at supersonic speed. So this is DRDO. Then when you look at the combat vehicles, we produce main battle tank Arjun, and we produced armored amphibious vehicles. We produced bridge layer tank. Like this, a family of combat vehicles. And Arjun is already manufactured and produced, and then inducted into the armed forces, army. And similarly in radars, we have produced a family of radars. Like Indra PC radar, Rajendra Pesari radar, central acquisition radar. Like this, a family of radars. Then electronic warfare system, sonars, torpedoes, novel materials, ammunitions, life support technologies, and also the chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear defense technology. That is the organization. With minimum input in terms of human resource as well as financial resource. And the country, DRDO, was able to produce so much, is producing so much. Even in COVID, about more than 50 technologies in the COVID-19 situation, the country was able to have this Atmanirbhar Bharat concept of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, that we were able to contribute. In such a short time, in 1 month, we were able to produce about 50 technologies and products manufactured, given right from a ventilator to hand sanitizer to decontamination systems. So we mask of different types, N95, N99, and so on. So that is the idea. So it not only helps these armed forces to keep the sovereignty of our nation through indigenous technologies, but also spin-off. A lot of spin-off technologies have gone to the civilian sector, including a biodigester, which is there in your railways, but you see, was actually a technology developed for a soldier in the high altitude conditions. So that is DRDO. And then we have developed in Ladakh, where we have a field laboratory of DRDO, which has produced different type of vegetables like tomatoes, brinjal, cabbage, onion, garlic. At that altitude, sub-zero temperature, and then we have given 5,000 metric tons of vegetables are locally produced in Ladakh, in Leh, at sub-zero temperature using DRDO technologies. We have produced hybrid cows. So why I'm telling these are tip of the iceberg of spin-off which have gone from the defense sector to the civilian sector through DRDO. So, so this is DRDO. So that is, I spent there. So from there, how my sojourn to academia. When I was the chief controller R&D DRDO, that was my last appointment, which is now designated as DG, Director General DRDO. I used to control also a university we have. It's a deemed university in DRDO, which is known as Defense Institute of Advanced Technology, DIAT, which is there in Pune. And I used to very closely interact because I was the human resource chief as well. So since being university, that responsibility also, I was directly looking after that university, even though we had a vice chancellor or a director. And then I used to network with a number of academic institutions, universities, institutions like IITs, NITs, central universities, private universities. So I used to work almost with about 800 the institutions, like IITs, NITs, universities, and so on. So this gave me that if I have to, after the superannuation, if I have to do this young mind, there is a turnover of young mind. Today in India, there are 1,000 universities, close to 1,000 universities, 45,000 colleges, and then we have a few lakhs of schools. So that is the power, the knowledge power of India. So I was looking at that since when I was coming close to the tenure, 40 years in DRDO. I was looking at which one I should. I had 8 offers. In fact, when I retired, even some international offers from York University and US Department of Defense gave an appointment, and to look after the projects in India. So like that I had many, and many universities in southern part of my country as well, where I belong. But then I chose Amity because I saw Dr. Ashok Chauhan's vision that he is there to churn out the future global citizens who are just not only endowed with the knowledge, which is the material knowledge from textbooks and curriculum, but he was trying to create future global citizens who will create a new world order. This I could see because I used to interact with him. He used to come to the DRDO, my laboratories, as well as I used to visit Amity University, which was growing at that time. So I saw the man's mission, that Dr. Ashok Chauhan's vision, that he wants to make India the best in education in the world, not just in India, in the world. And then he wants to create a new world order, which will be seen by good health, happiness, peace, global harmony. So that can be done through Amity. So I thought, rest of my life, I will give it to Amity because this man and the ecosystem available there was so good that it attracted. I decided out of that 8 offers I had, I chose Amity University.
Thank you for the valuable insights on that question, sir. Really inspiring for all the youth out there today. That brings me to the second question, sir. How does the university, Amity University Chhattisgarh, enhance the skills of the faculty and prepares them according to the industry standards?
I would not only mention about Amity University Chhattisgarh, though I am the chancellor, since I look after all the Amity campuses, including Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, Noida. And so I will talk about Amity Group itself and with particular focus on Amity University Chhattisgarh. See, today the faculties, if you take Amity University Chhattisgarh, and this is one of the youngest universities in Amity Group. We were established in 2014, and so just 5 years young, or 5.5 years young. And today we have 2,500 students there, and 100 faculties, and about 50 PhD scholars. So it is one of the new universities, young universities of Amity Group. Otherwise, Amity Group first university came in 2005 at Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, Noida. And so today we have 175,000 students and 10,000 faculties, 5,000 PhD scholars. But Amity University, Chhattisgarh, which I am the chancellor, in this, today we have a research and innovation focus in all Amity campuses, including the Chhattisgarh campus. And we make the curriculum design in such a way that it is driven by creativity, innovation, problem solving ability, and also resilience. So this is what we build in our curriculum itself and the delivery. So and the faculties is very important, because if you have to impart that type of education, you need that qualified, trained the faculties who own this culture, who own this philosophy. So first, as soon as a faculty, we very rigorously select faculties for all our Amity group. There are at least 3 levels of selection taking place, and initially by the HR, then followed by an expert committee, and then senior apex committee. So this is the 3 levels in which we look at the holistic ability of the faculty. So having recruited the best people, so we even get Ramalinga Swami fellows and people coming from abroad, people who have served in government like me, who are there with government experience and who have been with armed forces, who have also been teaching institutions. So we have such mix of people, both young, experienced, young, as well as energetic, enthusiastic faculty, as well as we have old people like us who have served, got experience, knowledge, expertise, and also ability to mentor people, groom people. So we have put a blend of these people. So if you look at the faculty position today, you will find in all Amity institutions this blend, which has worked very well. And if Amity Group's growth, this is one of the secrets that we were able to blend that old as well as the young together without a seamless blending. And then you need to keep developing them, because the industry requirement keeps changing. So the type of students you have to churn out need a different type of knowledge, different type of skills, different type of soft skills, and also the ability to adapt to the industry or corporate environment. So what we do is, we first bring the industry to Amity. What we do, we keep in the board of studies members of the industry representative who understand the milieu requirements of the industry. They project it in the board of studies when a curriculum is being designed. So they are part of the curriculum design. So we know what the industry is looking for. So in the relevant subject, if it's biotechnology, we bring the biotechnology industry. And so similarly, if it is engineering related, we bring such manufacturing industries. So we bring them on the curriculum design. Academic council has got, and even in the board of governors, we have brought industry people. So industry culture is blended with this. And then our faculties are exposed to them in these formal ways. Say first we organize industry meet, we invite industry reps as the chief guest in various functions, or they come and deliver lectures, guest lectures. So there is a seamless interaction taking place between industry, corporate giants, as well as with our faculty. So they know, they understand each other a little better, a little more better. Then the second is, we allow our people to go for internship. When our students go there, our faculties also visit them. So this type of the interface between industry and the academia, which is Amity, is taking place in this. Then industry today is looking for education, the industry 4.0, industry 4.0 and also industry 5.0. Like for example, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and virtual reality, augmented reality, data science, machine learning, deep learning. These are all the requirements. The whole industry is being driven, not the conventional manufacturing. And now the whole thing is moving towards the industry 4.0. So we are blending that education. We have said education 4.0, meeting the needs of industry 4.0. So this is the focus. This is how we blend. And first we prepare the faculties. What is this in education 4.0? And so they interact with the industry to know what is industry 4.0. So this type of the interface that occurs exists in Amity. And then we organize faculty development programs. Every year, many faculty development programs are organized. So the faculties are groomed on a continuous education basis. And also we send them to niche areas, specific area for training. For example, gene editing, I'm just giving an example, or CRISPR-Cas technologies. So we send the right kind of people to specific training. So there is a development taking place. So this is how the faculty development program, as well as the focused training programs, and we also send them to international conferences, national conferences, where they rub shoulders with the industry as well as the academic expert. This is how the Amity develops the faculties to be all the time adapted to the industry, growing industry requirements. And so this has happened in Amity.
Thank you for the valuable insights, sir. That's very well said. Education needs to be aligned with the industry to move forward.
And Dhruv, one more thing, we have brought industry in our campus in the sense the Tatas have established the facilities for aerospace as well as automobiles. So they have invested money and put 10 people from the Tatas group to come from the automobile and aerospace division. So they come and pick up the right people, and they have put facilities to teach what is an engine and how do you kind of cross sections of engines, and how does the assembling taking place, how the robotic manufacturing takes place in Tata's manufacturing. So this is one where not only that the industry has established facility in Amity laboratories, and similarly we have brought RICS, built-in environment, for architecture as well as the urban development. So this is with British group, RICS, and they have the center here in Amity. Similarly, Canadian industry, Quanser, they have put a center here for the control theory development. So like this, there are large, can I take a call?
Sure, I'll pause.
So that is how we build the interface between Amity and the industry.
That's very wonderful, sir. Industry coming into the campus and industry coming into the universities that makes way for the future as well. So how do you ensure that non-academic support services are well resourced?
Right. See, the whole aim of Amity is to groom the holistic personality of a student. It is just not only the material knowledge, the marks, or the CGPA, or the grades, which is important, but how a human being we create, who will be successful as well as happy in life. This is important, happy in life. You can be successful, you can be unhappy. So we are actually focusing not only on the actual curriculum delivery, we focus on co-curricular, extracurricular activities in Amity in a big way. Say like for example, we have yoga center where people can go and let us look at physical development, mental development, and spiritual development. Then it is holistic development. How do we impart in Amity? First is physical development. We have an Institute of Sports and Physical Sciences here in Amity, and in each university campus. So where we make our students develop their physique. We have a gym, we have a yoga center. So all this we have provided for the physical development, and not only we have created infrastructure, but we ensure people go and use these facilities. We motivate them, we encourage them, and we ensure them that they use the facility and develop physically. But this is very important. You have to be healthy. The second part is the mental development. Our mental development is just not only memorizing rote type of the delivery and getting marks. It is learning outcome. We look at teaching learning outcome, in which how much the student has learned the basic principles, fundamentals, the concepts, That is more important than how much marks a person gets. But that is not going to, the marks are not going to make him successful, even in getting a job or a placement or successful in a job. So it is very important to have the right, not only in the classroom teaching, but we give seminars, short projects, field visits, internships, corporate visit, and they're coming and talking to us, and brainstorming sessions. And this type of activities make them learn by doing, not just by memorizing. So this mental development is actually to promote creativity, innovation, and problem solving abilities. That is what we give in our education, in mental development. Then mental development, after that spiritual development, because we exist at that plane as well. We are not just only the robots with knowledge and we will work whatever job is to be done. So we look at spiritual development. How do we do that? Spiritual development is humility as well as the ability to give to others is spirituality. It's not just religion, any religion. If you are able to develop that, which is the spirit of your existence, so that is spirituality. So how do we do that? We have Amity Humanity Foundation, which we organize Amity Humanity Quarters. So in which we take students, compulsorily the credits are given for field visit to villages, organizing health camps, blood donation camps, adult literacy, or teaching girls or women in villages how to use a sanitary pad. So this type of personal hygiene, so all this is taught. So we connect the students to reality and the society, thereby ability to give something beyond what they have to do. Otherwise, they have to study. So this is what is spirituality. And we also have, like for example, Havan. Any event is started with a Havan. And we pray God so that people develop, there is some other superior power, irrespective of religion, whatever religion a student belongs to. But then we develop that there is something beyond you. That is the spirituality. So this is how we impart that spiritual dimension of nurturing the spiritual dimension. So nurturing physical, mental, and spiritual dimension of existence of a student is done this way. So this is how the non-academic support services, we have clubs, we have yoga centers, swimming pool, archery, shooting range, and also we send them to military camp. We run 7 days military camp in Amity University, Haryana, compulsory, and the credits are given to them. So this is how people develop the holistic personality. If they have to go to service selection board, later to join armed forces, they're already oriented to military life. So this is how the co-curricular, non-academic, extracurricular activities. Then we have cultural clubs where we run competitions. And so this is how the students develop in a holistic way. That is why our placement record is 95%, close to 100%. Almost every student who aspires for placement on a job, we give. That is the great strength. Students are looking for that. And then wherever they have gone, whether in India and abroad on a job, they are doing very well. Our alumni connectivity, alumni association is an indication that the major deliverable coming out from a university or higher educational institution is student. So if they are successful, that means the system is good. So this is one, the evidence in terms of Amity's deliverable is a student, and they are doing extremely well. And our alumni association connects with them for lifelong. So this is how we support the non-academic support services, and we resource them, and we give resources, infrastructure, and enabling support systems.
That's very well said. So holistic development is very important along with academics as well. So I'm glad that Amity University focuses on it too much. So being the chancellor of Amity University, Chhattisgarh, what is your philosophy of leadership? How would you describe your leadership style?
A leader, a good leader, first should be a good human being with the personal values, integrity, and honesty, An integrated personality is a must. Personal integrity. People respect you, whether you are a chancellor or a vice chancellor or anybody. First, they look at how good a human being and an individual is. So a leader has to be, first of all, a good human being. Second thing is, you should be able to look ahead, envision where you want to see your Amity University Chhattisgarh in the next 10, 15 years. Where would you like to see in the global level, at the national level? What should be its ranking? So today, if we have a ranking of 32 in the whole university in NIRF ranking, and so this indicates that it's growing fast. So a leader will be able to envision, create a vision, and that vision will be shared by everyone, because a leader has to be followers. They have followers. So followers, not because of position you are a chancellor, so you have to follow, but because that you can lead them. So your leader will have followers spontaneously, irrespective of your position. Even tomorrow, if I don't have this position, people should be able to respect you, honor your speech, your words. And so that a person has to lead. Then benevolent leadership, I always felt benevolent leadership, because there is a task relationship. One is a task. A faculty has to do certain tasks and the staff has to do certain tasks. But you need to also build relationship. So how do you blend? A good leader will be able to blend the task requirement and relationship requirement, so that you are not only talking at intellectual level, mental level, you are talking at sentimental level, emotional level, heart to heart. Dialogues takes place. So this is important for a leader who can blend these task relationship requirements in an appropriate way. So that is important. So then you can create a eustress environment. You have to be demanding. A good leader, successful leader, is not only benevolent. A leader who is assertive and who is demanding, who will be able to demand, this is what I require from faculty. You set targets, achieve them at any cost. And so this is a good leader. So that is the leadership I believe in, and I have practiced this not only theoretically, but I have practiced it, and both in DRDO as well as in Amity, which has really paid dividend. And this type of leadership, everyone, even if I go today to DRDO, everyone respects me, loves me, and I have used the power of my pen as a leader to help everyone, irrespective of the position, whether he's a peon or a messenger, or he is another director of a laboratory or a distinguished scientist. So this is important. You have to respect the human being as a human being, irrespective of the position. Because everybody in a system is equally important. Like I am important, there is the peon or a messenger in that organization is also equally important like me. If you respect that, that's a good leader. This is what I learned from Dr. Kalam. Abdul Kalam, I closely worked with him for almost 2 decades, very closely, very, very closely. And so I have shared many values, and I have tried to emulate many of his good qualities as a leader. He was a great leader. Similarly, I see Dr. Ashok Chauhan, a great leader, unparalleled leader, whom I really admire. And he many of these leadership qualities which I said, which I practice, and I share that with him as well. And he is unparalleled leader. So this is how I was able to work with great leaders, like for example, Dr. Abdul Kalam, very closely. Similarly, Dr. Arunachalam, V.S. Arunachalam, and Dr. Raja Ramanna, I have closely worked with him. So this brought me that dimension of leadership. I was able to be radiated by such people. So I learned, and I am still learning. I have to do much more learning. Life itself is a journey of learning, and I'm also learning. And this is the type of leadership style, benevolent leadership with effectiveness, coming from assertiveness as well as demanding to deliver with targets and reviews.
Thank you for sharing that information, sir. India needs more leaders like these. So when you first came to Amity University, sorry, I skipped one question. As the Chancellor, what do you think your roles and responsibilities to the university and the students are?
The chancellor is a father figure. You know, he may not be effectively controlling, executing, but he should set examples, a role model. I would see a chancellor to be a role model both as a human being, because people learn by looking at you. So, like I learned from Dr. Kalam, I learned from Dr. Ramanna. So when you interact, I learned from Dr. Ashok Chauhan. So such leaders, when you interact, so you learn. This is what I want a chancellor or any leader in an organization. You should be able to radiate that human values and the leadership qualities. So, as a chancellor, I would like to be that role model for others. So, I have to practice what I preach. So, that is the quality of a leader. Otherwise, your credibility will not be there. Whatever you say, whether you mean it, and people may not respect it and honor it. Then, the next thing as a chancellor, I would like to have a big vision. I want to be the best in the country, not just only 32 or 35. So the Amity has to be number one in the country first and at the global level. So this is what is Dr. Ashok Chauhan also keeps telling. So as a chancellor, I would like to see our Amity universities to be the best in the country first and best in the world. So this is the my roles and responsibility. And then the next thing I would like to see is my vice chancellors. Vice Chancellor Dr. R.K. Pandey is the Vice Chancellor in Amity University, Chhattisgarh. Brilliant academician, researcher, a great human being. So we bring such good people to lead our organization. So you have to only keep just guiding and radiating, inspiring and motivating those people, and they will deliver. So you have to have clear vision. There should be no ambiguity what you want to do, and your instructions when you are addressing your faculties, head of the institutions, advisors, and the staff, and the vice chancellor and pro vice chancellors and the deans. You need to have clear communication. Otherwise, if there is ambiguity, people will not be able to understand what I mean. So this is the important quality of a chancellor. He or she should be able to communicate properly. What actually you mean to say should be clearly delivered in that language, which reaches the heart and mind of the people, not just mind, heart, so that you touch their heart as well, why it should be done, so that then it is a happy journey for them to deliver what you wanted. Otherwise, it becomes because chancellor said you have to do it, but they start owning it in their heart, not just only in mind. So, a chancellor, and I try to do that. So I motivate them, because everyone has an ego, everyone has something. So first you touch that, you ignite that. You are most important in the system. So I, as a chancellor, wherever I go to my universities, Amity universities, first I kindle that they are most important part of the system. Whatever Amity today, it's not because of chancellors and vice chancellors, it is because of that faculty who are army commanders and the field commanders who deliver. So I touch that and tell them the importance and express our gratitude to them. So you touch their heart first. You are most important. Then you try to convey what is the target or what is the job to be accomplished, and then it gets done. You don't have to really get it done. It just happens. So this is what I have experienced as a chancellor, that I was able to do that, touching their not only mind, touching their heart. You will be able to get things done. What you dream happens. You don't have to really do it. I'm not. You are muted. I am not able to hear you.
So I'm. So now it's audible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that information. So I've had an opportunity to speak with Dr. Pandey as well, and now I can understand, how it flows the leadership from top to bottom and why everyone is motivated in the system. Thank you for sharing that information, sir. So when you first came to Amity University, what was your vision for the university? Has it evolved over time, and how far along in implementing that vision are you?
Right. Amity is a growing organization, growing exponentially, not just incremental growth. I have seen Amity the last now more than 7 years. This is the 8th year in Amity. I joined in 2013 March. So when I came there, I saw the tremendous potential because I knew Amity. I have visited when I was in job as well, because we have been doing some projects which was given by DRDO over here. So I have seen, I used to come to review those projects. So I saw the potentials of these faculties, very well educated, motivated, and the ecosystem for research and innovation. I saw the beautiful fertile ground because that time it was very young. 2005 only it became university, so it was just 8 years young when I joined. So now it is 15 years. So I have seen almost half of it, 50% of the life of the journey of Amity universities. So when I joined in 2000, Dhruv, Dhruv, can you hear me? You are muted.
Yes, sir, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yes, sir, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, so I was received so well by Dr. Ashok Chauhan and the family and the Amity family, so well, with a havan for 1 hour reciting slokas, mantras, and doing puja, so that my coming to Amity, it's a very rare reception they have given to any colleague joining the Amity family. I was able to see that, the impact. And so then I saw the strength and potential. I was only, when I joined, how do I manifest these potential to the fullest? How do I optimize the performance? And how do I enable the ecosystem to create the best achievements, accomplishments for the Amity group itself? So that is how I was fascinated by when I joined and interacted. Within another 3 months, I was able to visit all Amity group of institutions. I learned about the SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat for the organization. So I completely studied by visiting those institutions, meeting people, including staff, including contractual people. So I did that to understand the organization in wholest, including schools, including preschools. We have preparatory schools like Amion, which we have. So where we in fact visited all this and learned the strength of the teachers, the faculties in universities, as well as the ecosystem. Then after I joined, what I did, I created a comprehensive research policy since my focus was on research and innovation. And Dr. Chauhan made it very clear that we want Amity to be the best in research and innovation. So I am all there with you, Selvamurthy, go ahead. So I created a comprehensive research policy where how do you bring projects, how do you file patents, IPRs, copyrights, trademark, so IPR part. Then I looked at the technology transfer mechanisms, how it should happen. Then the incubator, which was available at that time, looked at how do we harness the potentials for the incubation of technologies to happen. So we are, Dr. Chauhan has created those infrastructure. He created a foundation, Amity Science, Technology and Innovation Foundation. And so he's the chairman, and he made me as the president. So this foundation gives cover to all Amity group of institutions for science, technology, innovation, research, the total support. So one is this foundation. The second is every university has got a Directorate of Science and Innovation, Research and Innovation. So that is the structure which connects with ASTIP. So you have an organization level, a foundation, and at each university level, you have a directorate of research and innovation. This is connected with the ASTIP. So this is how we created that linkages with the university so that the same culture percolates and is practiced everywhere. So the structure was created. And then we brought a number of projects. There was an exponential growth in the number of projects. After I joined in 2013, you will see in terms of number of sponsored, funded projects from government, industry, and corporate sectors, and international projects. We brought in large number. Similarly, the outcome of these projects will be publications. Now we have more than 25,000 publications in journals of repute for a young organization like Amity, which is only 15 years young. And this is very good, about 25,000 papers in very, very good journals like Nature, Science, the Lancet, the Cell, and the New England Journal of Medicine, and IEEE Journal, RSC journals, Advanced Materials, Horizon, and physical reviews. So like this in all disciplines, we brought quality publication. So not only in number, 25,000, but also in terms of quality publication, Nature Index. And so that is, we brought in the quality in terms of publication. That is another indicator of your quality of research. Then patents. Today we have 1,325 patents filed. Today's score, it's like a cricket score, keeps changing every day. So today the status of total patent file is 1,325 patents. And we are number one next to IITs, because IITs are government funded. In the private sector, we are number one in terms of the number of patents filed. And this was reported in Times of India. And in 2012-13 block onwards, we have maintained the stature of next to IITs. All IITs are decades old. We are just 1.5 decades old. So we are able to reach this. But many of these patents are now getting translated into product, technology, processes to reach out to the people through industry. So this technology transfer is happening. And we have transferred about 15 technologies. And 2 of them have gone globally. One to Taiwan-based industry, which is a Piriforma Spora indica. It has gone to Sinon Corporation. And similarly, one to US, Boston-based company, the biodegradable plastics. So like this, there are 15 technologies which have gone to both Indian industry and 2 of them also to the global industry. So the technology transfer is taking place. That means we are producing the products and technologies. Then we have filed patents. So you have projects, patents, publications, technology transfer, and startups. We have a very strong entrepreneurship development in Amity Group. And in Amity, including Chhattisgarh, we have an entrepreneurship development program, we have incubator, and so we are able to not only place the people, our placement record is almost 100%. I said in Chhattisgarh it is 95%, which is very high. And today the record in Amity University Chhattisgarh is 95. I have told them make it 100%, which will happen. And we set targets. So like now Dr. Ashok Chauhan has said, in next 1 year, every year we should produce 500 patents. 500 in 1 year is huge. And patents cost a lot of money as well. So Amity invests money in that, because to file, to have requests for examination, maintenance of the granted patents, everything costs money. So, but then that investment comes from Dr. Chauhan and the Amity group. Then the incubator. We have strengthened the incubator, we have the entrepreneurship development cell, and we also have Amity Venture. Amity Venture, which is looked after by Mr. Amol Chauhan, his youngest son of Dr. Ashok Chauhan, who studied in Harvard, and now he looks after Amity, Amity also in terms of the venture. And today we have campuses, 17 campuses abroad in countries like Dubai, Mauritius, Singapore, London, Romania, China. USA, we have 3 campuses. the Long Islands of New York, Seattle, as well as San Francisco. And we have our presence in Amsterdam, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, and so Amity is really a big universe today. And so why I'm telling is the research and innovation, when I saw this growth which is taking place, and Dr. Chauhan has got his sons are also, whole family is dedicated. If you see today, Dr. Atul Chauhan is the president of the foundation and also chancellor of Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, Noida. And Dr. Asim Chauhan, his younger son, next son, is looking after other campuses like Jaipur. Raipur is looked after by him as chairman. And so his son and the other sons, everybody, including Mrs. Chauhan, looks after all schools, Amita Chauhan. And his daughter Sapna Chauhan looks after the preparatory schools, Amion. So why I'm telling this, and also even his daughters-in-law looks after, and the whole family is dedicated to humanity development, nation building. So with that only Amity Group works. So after I have joined, I can humbly, with all humility, I can say that Amity has seen exponential growth, particularly in research, innovation, which I have personally contributed immensely. And this journey has been beautiful and much more to be done and miles to go before I sleep. So we have a lot of things to achieve, and because it's pleasure to work in Amity Group where you have clear targets to achieve and we know the path to achieve and the trajectories to move further towards the vision of Amity becoming the best in the world. So it's a beautiful journey.
That's very valuable and inspiring, sir. And I also believe that research and innovation is the future. But more than that, the easy access to research and innovation, especially in the small and medium sector, is also very important. So it's great that we are doing so much for the industry.
Just 1 minute, I'll take a call. Just...
Sure. So what do you see as Amity University Chhattisgarh's greatest strengths?
See, the Amity University great strength is the people there. I see first the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Pandey, who has been Vice Chancellor earlier and also been right from a faculty, excellent faculty, and he has been a great researcher. Because Vice Chancellor is the chief executive in a university. Chancellor is there, but then actual executive power and the executive is Vice Chancellor. So we have the best leader there. That's a great strength. Then the second is we have brought 100 faculties today, and I have seen them. It's fully motivated. We have put a CCSM. Dr. Chauhan and myself, we sat together. We must, if you have to grade faculty, there must be CCSM factor. That is competence, commitment, self-motivation. It is known as CCSM. There must be competent as a faculty, commitment to serve, and commitment to serve the students, the organization, as well as to the country and the humanity. So commitment. The other one is self-motivation, because it's not that extrinsic factors always motivate you, the promotions, the increment. That should not be the only factor. There must be intrinsic motivation. So we have created this factor. Dr. Chauhan is the brainchild of Dr. Chauhan. He said we will create a new factor to assess faculties. So CCSM, competence, commitment, self-motivation. So I find it's very high. This factor is very high in our faculty in Chhattisgarh. Then the enabling mechanisms, ecosystem, culture, these are all very vital to bring the best out of the people. So I would see the right ecosystem exists. So you have the good people, the right infrastructure, and the ecosystem which is available. The next is the opportunities. Opportunities. Now, if you look at Chhattisgarh, it's a great state, very progressive state in terms of governance, the people, and many students come from a family business background. So, many people with a family business in Chhattisgarh, and they have entrepreneurship skills right there in their genes, not and the sanskar in the family environment in which they have grown, they have imbibed that business culture. So we are now focusing on that. There is business development, BBA, MBA, management related courses, where we want to groom the future leaders and who will contribute to that $5 trillion economy which Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi is promulgating, which we want to achieve, which we will achieve. And so we are grooming one side the management related. That's a great strength in Amity University Chhattisgarh, since the students community come from that type of ecosystem, their families from that particular state. The second I see is the tribal development, because Chhattisgarh has got a lot of tribal belts. So we are giving a focus in research and innovation on tribal development. Then we are also giving a focus on handicrafts and Khadi Udyog, which is again a strong group. We are doing a project with Khadi. We have an MOU, ongoing MOU for the last 5 years, and so which is doing very well. And they are giving a continuous financial flow for this activity. So from our fashion design, we tell for the Khadi garments and others what type of fashions which are required. And we keep giving those ideas and they incorporate it in their design of the fabrics and garments and so on. So this is another strength which I see, the tribal development as well as the Khadi Udyog which is development over there. Then you have good institutions there where we are building collaboration. Like we have a good agricultural university, and close to Amity University Chhattisgarh, we have an Institute of Biotic Stress, the Institute of Abiotic Stress, which is very close to Amity University Chhattisgarh, just about 3 minutes drive. And so we are building a strong partnership where we want to develop biocontrol and plant disease management, because agriculture is one of the important the revenue generation in Chhattisgarh. The other one is sugar industries. We have some good industries around. So we are also building connectivity, like Adani Group has got a big power station there. Adani Group close to Amity University Chhattisgarh. So we are building partnership with them, and our students go there for internship. So that's it. I see tremendous strength in Amity University Chhattisgarh, and a lot of good publications are coming. Patents are coming from this. And then our entrepreneurship development activities is doing very well. Incubator now has become very active over there. So I see the faculties are highly motivated to deliver this, and we have set targets. What should be the number of projects you should bring this year, 2020? What should be the number of publications, patents you have to file, and technology transfer, and entrepreneurship development? So we set targets, and rigorous reviews are taking place to reach the target, a monthly review. So I keep talking to them, and may not be physically going right now in the COVID situation, but I keep in my conversation through various webinars as well as this media, MS Teams I call for review meetings, and then we set the action points are given, how many they have completed, how many are pending is review. So this is very important, reviews, and so that the action is being pushed all the time. So that is a very responsive university, Amity University Chhattisgarh, and I'm so happy, and compliments to the Vice Chancellor and all the faculties and staff over there.
That's great, sir. Great to know about the industry and the prospects in Chhattisgarh. So what are some of the biggest challenges you see, both for higher education in general and for Amity University Chhattisgarh specifically?
With the new national education policy, which is again promulgated by this government, and Shri Narendra Modi ji, our Honorable Prime Minister, has already launched this national education program, where there's a big dream for the country, where all of us have to participate in its implementation. Because policy is only a document, guidelines, and the enabling mechanism. But what is practiced on ground is important. So I see a challenge in implementing the national education policy. It's a big vision, and the its aspirations are very high. India to become a national hub, like we were one of the national, the knowledge hub. We had Vedas, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Yoga, Ayurveda, and we had Dakshila, we had Nalanda, where people used to come to seek knowledge to India. So we want to bring that glory back, and we want to transform India as a knowledge superpower. So if that has to happen, then this national education policy is actually aspiring for it, is setting a goal. So the challenge, which I consider right now, is how do we give life to this NEP? How do we implement it in all universities? Because we need infrastructure. It is, the vision is there, but then how do you reach the trajectories, the path, the roadmap to reach there? To make India as a knowledge hub is a big challenge. But that's all we can do, and Amity will contribute in a big way. We have already started looking at the implementation, adopting and implementing in all the systems. For example, choice-based credit system. I'll talk about a few of these challenges, because this we have already introduced in Amity, flexible choice-based credit system. So a student has an option from a basket of courses to select, irrespective of the domain in which he wants to specialize. So the science subject can take some engineering related subject as well. So like that, and suppose biotechnology would like to learn computer science, or we would like to learn artificial intelligence. So we have kept this flexible choice-based credit system, which is very, very important, which is being talked about in this policy in a big way, which is not there. Then the next thing is research and innovation driven system. So which in Amity University we are already implementing part of it, because our curriculum, delivery, pedagogy, everything is research and innovation driven, and the publications, patents, technologies developed, everything is indicative of this which is happening. But this we want to happen at the national level. There are universities, less fortunate universities, which is not funded by government in that way which is required. There may not be billion people, like we can bring anybody from anywhere in the globe, and then I can give appointment today. Okay, you are appointed from today onwards with this salary, which is commensurate with your capabilities. We can do that, but then many universities may not be able to do that. So we have been able to bring good people. It's a big challenge, but then we want this to happen not only in Amity, but we want this to happen at the national level, right from schools, which is the feeder to the higher education. So the quality of students, the deliverable coming to us, raw material to the universities or institutions of higher learning, have to be good. So that is why this NEP implementation is the big challenge I will see for the educational institutions, which is a big vision which the country has they developed and the government has promulgated, and now it is a challenge for all of us. How do we implement it and make India? Now, if you see today in research, we are number 3 in the world in terms of publication. Do you know that? The total number of publications. When you see the quality of publications in terms of impact factor, citation index, H index, we are number 9. It is known as Nature Index. So we are number 9. And in terms of patents, we are number 9 in the world in patent also. And we are number 3 in startups. So like this, we are, and only in innovation index, we are number 52. And doing ease of business, we are close to 80. So we know where are gray areas where the country should improve upon. So that is what the educational policy, National Education Policy 2020 is now telling us the way how to do it, how the enabling policies are required for this. So this Amity is already started implementing. We have studied the policy thoroughly, and we are debating now within the Amity group, and we will implement. So I would see for the universities and the higher education now how soon we can bring life into this NEP, National Education Policy 2020. And so I would see that as a big challenge. But then India will meet once a goal is set. Uh, we will reach within 5 years, 10 years. We will achieve that status of India emerging as a knowledge hub for the whole world.
That's great. So I agree. Implementation and integration will play a key role for NEP 2020. Since any suggestions you would like to give to the current youth and the aspiring students? I know as a teacher, everyone, the teachers like to impart. This is one of the questions that they really enjoy, talking about to the youth. So I'm sure, students would be all ears to listen to you.
Yeah. So my dear students, we want you to be the future global citizens. That is the vision of Amity Group, Amity, and particularly Dr. Ashok Chauhan, that we want to create a new world, where everybody is healthy, everybody is happy, peaceful, harmonious, and which we want you to do as Amitians, as well as students in other educational institutions, realize the responsibility on your shoulder. Because in the next 20, 30 years, 20 years, not 30 years, 20 years, you go anywhere in the world, you ask a person, he would say that I passed out from a portal of an Indian institution. It could be in school, it could be in college, it could be a university. So he would have passed through the Indian educational institution at some point of time. 1 in 4 of every professional across the world is going to be an Indian. And he could be settled there, but then who would have studied and have the genes? So that means the role of you who are going to be the future global citizens, prepare yourself. The message I want to give you is equip yourself with knowledge, update yourself with knowledge, including spiritual knowledge, because we exist at spiritual plane as well. So knowledge, including spiritual knowledge, skills. Don't stop with understanding the knowledge only, acquiring knowledge only, but you need to skills to execute them. So the next is acquire those competence and skills to implement those knowledge which you have acquired, including soft skills like leadership, communication, behavior. Good behavior is very important. And that is what Amity's USP, one of the USP is all our students, 175,000 students undergo behavioral science course compulsory. Similarly, a foreign language, we give it to all students. One of the basket of about 15, 20 foreign languages, he has to pick up one, which could give a cutting edge. So soft skills are very important. When you go for an interview and the employer is looking not just for your subject domain knowledge, he is looking for a holistic personality. How do you communicate? How do you behave? Etiquette. This is what is required. So you prepare yourself with skills and soft skills. Then the next thing is you must have creativity, out of box thinking, disruptive ideas. You bring that, then you become a successful person. So create that ability to be creative, innovative in life. The next thing is you also must have the resilience, because life is not just only all success. You will have challenges, you will have failures, you will have tragedy sometimes, but then it's part of life. So you need to have that resilience to take the success and sometimes not so successful, but be sometimes failures equally with equanimity. So resilience, build that resilience to face challenges. Then believe in God. Above all, there is some supreme power. If you believe, it always helps you whenever you have to encounter challenge. You will always believe that somebody is also there to back you up. That gives you strength. So this is the message I like to give you, students. And you are going to be the future global citizens. and then own all this and realize that responsibilities on your shoulder, and we will see certainly a new world.
As you spoke about the NEP 2020, it has been rolled out and brings out some key changes in our education system. What are your thoughts on the same, and what impact would it have on higher education in general and on Amity University, Chhattisgarh?
Right. It is a great aspirational policy which is setting very high goals for our country. So I must compliment the Government of India as well as Honorable Prime Minister for this great initiative, because he always dreams big for the country, which is very important for the transformational India, a new India which he talks about, all the policies which he talks about, Atmanirbhar Bharat, then he talks about Startup India, Stand Up India, Swachh Bharat. So all this is looking at a new India. For a new India, you need a new education policy. So that is why NEP, the National Education Policy 2020, is for the transformation which is required for India, particularly to become a knowledge hub. Because we had agricultural era, which India contributed. Then came industrial era, which we didn't contribute because of the British colonial rule. Industrial revolution, we couldn't participate fully. But when it came to information era, that is between 1960 to 2000 was information era, and 1870 to 1960 was industrial era. So industrial era we did not participate, but information era from 1960 to 2000, India contributed significantly. We applied IT, information technology, in a big way and brought revolution in our GDP in the service sector by application of IT in a big way, which brought in 60% of GDP came from service sector through IT revolution. But now we are in the new knowledge era. New knowledge era. Because why I say new knowledge era? Because we were in a knowledge era where we had Vedas, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Yoga, Dakshila, and Nalanda, everything existed. When civilization did not even develop elsewhere, we had all this 5,000 years ago. So we want to bring that back. Now we are in the new knowledge era where India is going to become knowledge hub. So knowledge era, India is going to become knowledge superpower. This has been predicted. If you see New Scientist Volume 2005 and the 18th February 2005 issue, everybody should read. The cover page reads, India, the next knowledge superpower. So it is not predicted. The whole world is looking for India's transformation as a knowledge superpower, the next knowledge superpower. If it has to happen, you need a good policy. You need the best practices. Then it will become a knowledge superpower. That is where this policy, the National Education Policy, is the foundation on which we have to build this India transformation as a knowledge superpower. It has been built on this platform. Because policy is the framework. But under this, you need to invest money, you need resources, you need infrastructure, and you need the ecosystem, you need also the enabling processes. All this we need to build now. So policy is the first step. So the foundation has been laid now by this policy. Very clear foundation, strong foundation. Now it is for us to build. So like Amity, we have already started now looking at, if you see some of the important things, what the policy is looking at. The first is transformation of a human being, holistic development of a human being, right from schools. So if you see the child development till 3 years of age, what should be done? Till 8 years, what is to be done? Then when he goes to college at 16, what is to be done? So the whole policy is looking at the holistic development of a human being. This is one important dimension. The second part is inclusive. because we have the right to education. So there must be inclusivity in education. People, less privileged people also should have an access and the life and higher education institution. So then you have exit entry system, because some less privileged people might like to go and work for some time and then come back. He has some resources generated. Now that will be useful for his education. And then he can keep on increasing the credit and then earn the degree as soon as he completes the required credit system. So you see, this is a very flexible system which is looking at inclusive education for less privileged who may not be able to afford a continuous education. You have entry, multiple exit happening, lateral entries happening. So this is a new system which will enable the inclusivity. The third is gender. We always find the gender, the women empowerment, the female child coming to education, and also from the some religious group also people to come into the girls coming to education. So all this have been looked at as a gender inclusivity also is seen now in this policy, and there are the enabling mechanisms set for more girl child coming for educational system. So inclusivity, including less differently abled people. So if you look at the educational system, the second, the major driver is the inclusivity. Then the third one is to have a choice-based credit, because a student, I may like to do medicine, but I am also interested in AI, artificial intelligence, or data science, which is different from medicine. Medicine will talk about disease, the health, disease, physiology, anatomy, biochemistry, and so on, but then pathology. But here, you'll also want to learn how do I use artificial intelligence in health. So I want to learn AI. So here is a provision, which was not existing earlier. No, you don't have a basic degree in engineering, so you may not be able to enter. All this is gone now. So it's a flexible system, choice-based credit system, where the student has an option to pick. I can pick up music, going to the arts. I may be doing engineering. I may be doing something in arts. So this is the flexibility we have. This national education policy is bringing. The third dimension is, after the inclusivity, is the flexibility of the system. Then the next is multidisciplinarity. Normally you have engineering colleges and you have medical colleges. You have very few universities like Amity, which is multidisciplinary, where in one umbrella we have the health related subjects, we have engineering related, life sciences related, management related, law, humanities, education, you name anything, fashion technology, built-in environment, everything under one umbrella. This multidisciplinarity Amity is already practicing. So this policy prescribes this. If you are only verticals, an engineering student should have humanity exposure. An engineering student should have management experience. So this is multidisciplinarity, which is there in this policy. So that a human being will have all these skills, which is required. Even an engineer will need a background of management. He will need about environment, sustainability. He will need accountability, accounts. You need humanities, psychology. So all this is now coming in this policy. The multidisciplinarity is another important the framework of this policy. Then comes, how do we attract the students from outside? Because now dual degrees are not permitted. Joint degrees are not permitted right now. That is, if I join hands with Stanford or Harvard, Amity and Stanford, together we issue a joint degree, which is not possible now. Today in this policy, you can have joint degrees. And you can have also the dual degree. Suppose I want to do a subject here in, let's say, life sciences, biotechnology, and I want to also do a dimension of management, I can simultaneously do. So which is not there in the current system. So dual degrees, I can do another diploma related to artificial intelligence. So this is now permitted. Otherwise, one student, one course only can be done in the present system. So now that dual degrees and integrated degree like BSc, MSc, integrated MSc is there, integrated doctoral program is there now, but then that integrated courses will also be promoted in a big way, but with multiple entry as well as multiple exit. So these are some of the things which will attract students. Then earlier, the university undergraduate program used to be only 3 years. Now it will be 4 years, which will be commensurate, matching with the system practiced abroad. So when you go, our students go from India to that, you don't have to do that 1 year additional university course and then get into the program. So now we are globalizing this educational system so that 4 year undergraduate program means everything is 4 years. So this is another thing which you are harmonizing the Indian educational system with the global educational system. Wherever our students go, they will be equally at par with the students from that population. So this is another thing which we are bringing. Then we are also promoting the foreign university to come and establish here, so that this will bring cross-fertilization of culture, cultural ethos, everything will be cross-fertilization will take place. Best practices there, they'll come here. Similarly, best practices from India, we will give it to them. So this kind of globalization of education, where we will attract students to come to our campuses. Now only our students are going. So that is why now we say stay in India, study in India. So that concept, first you have to give quality education. And the second, because our parents with a single one child or two children may not like them to go with this COVID-19 threat also. Now this is today COVID-19, will there be something else tomorrow? So there's an anxiety. So many students who were aspiring to go abroad now might stay here. So we have to give quality education. Why they are going there? So we should look at what attracts them to go abroad for study. You should give it in our institution. This is what is the educational policy. So you are now upgrading, fine-tuning, and also transforming to that level. So whatever students aspire, placement, we will give the placement here. Now we will give that opportunity here. Why some people go to UK? Because after study you can be there for 2 years employed there. That attracts them. So all this we want to create through national education policy in India. So that these are some of the facets I have mentioned. There are many, many good facets which will really, if it is implemented in the letter and spirit, it will transform India into a new India, and also India transforming to become a knowledge superpower through this particular policy. And Amity has already started practicing many of those which are there in the policy. And now this will further augment and empower Amity Group to practice it, because we are global. We have campuses, our students go abroad on a study abroad program, 3-continent program, because we have campuses in continents. So first they study here in India, in Chhattisgarh, Amity University, Chhattisgarh, then they go to London, our London campus for 3 months, and 3 months to US campus or Dubai campus. So like this, we are already doing this for global exposure. Our placement record is very good, so that is what attracts people to come in. So many of the NEP policy, it will be very seamless implementation for Amity, since there are already the baseline, the practices are already existing in our system. It will be a smooth transition, seamless transition will happen in Amity for implementing the National Education Policy 2020.
Thank you, sir, for sharing valuable insights about NEP 2020. I agree it's a vast topic to discuss, and we will need another session to discuss all the facets. But thank you for giving an overview to the students. So do you have Any ideas for the future expansion of the university and developing in-demand programs in the field of data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning? Do you think that demand for these courses, data science, AI, ML, would replace the demand for traditional courses such as BE or BTech?
We have already started these efforts. Dhruv, are you there?
Yes, sir. So I'm there.
Okay. So it's already this particular transformation is happening. We have a big dream. Dr. Chauhan has set targets that in each of Indian states, we must have an Amity University. So see the goal now. 11 universities are there in India in 11 states. Now another 18 or 20 are to be added more. So it's a big, this has to happen in the next 10 years. So now the next one is coming in Bangalore, as Bangalore, Amity University Bangalore, Amity University Mohali for Punjab, and also the Telangana is on cards. So we are already planned a further expansion. You are asking about further expansion of Amity University Chhattisgarh and also Amity University Amity Group. So and then now today we have 17 campuses abroad, and the goal target set by Dr. Chauhan is 50 campuses, 50. So it's a big order. So we have to create. We have started this 17 now with the latest one in Tashkent. We have already activated Tashkent, and so that is functional now. And then something more in Australia in cards. And currently we have in Singapore, London, Dubai, Mauritius, US, and Amsterdam, Abu Dhabi, and Sharjah, and now Australia is on cards. And so South Africa also we have. So this expansion will happen. Our targets is 50 in next 10 years. And now with coming to the Amity University Chhattisgarh, now it is slowly growing. This is now currently 100 faculties and with 2,500 students. Now we want to augment the student intake. So this year we have put 1,000 more, so it will become 3,000. And faculties commensurate with that, we will bring the number of faculties also. So today we have 100 faculties, so we are aiming at 200 faculties. So we have to double. And being Chhattisgarh, Raipur is not the main metropolitan. Attracting the best people is a challenge, but then we are doing it by giving the right kind of ambience, motivation, the best people. So the expansion of Chhattisgarh in terms of faculty. Then we need to build infrastructure commensurate with the expansion of students like classrooms, practical classes, as well as we have to build research laboratories. So that is happening. So this will happen. Then in terms of the courses, as you rightly said, the Industry 4.0 requires topics like data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, virtual reality, augmented reality, the quantum computing. So these are the areas, Internet of Things. So we have already started diploma courses and also as a subject being taught in engineering programs, whether it's computer science or relevant areas. But now we will be running dedicated major program, undergraduate, postgraduate program in these areas, because everywhere in Industry 4.0, you will have the application of this. So that is why these are emerging niche areas in which there will be a revolution in industry and revolution in the education as well.
So having more than 5 decades of experience in the field of research and development, what are the vision and ideas for research you have for the university?
So the first thing is you need to have multidisciplinary research, because research cannot be done in silos. Earlier it used to be done in silos. A biotechnologist will work only in that biotechnology domain, or engineering student will work only in this. Now there is no boundaries, because it is interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and transdisciplinary research. That is what is the focus should be in all universities. We are already implementing in this program. And the University Grants Commission also have started a program known as STRIDE. That is, this type of a transdisciplinary research will help in economic development of the country. So this is necessary. Otherwise, you will have publications, you may have at the maximum patents, but you may not see a product, technology, or a process emerging out of this research. So that is why the first message I like to see give is go in for multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary research, which is very, very important for the growth of the nation. That will give the deliverables and solutions to their problems. The second message is we should address the national needs. We must put priority. What are the societal needs in India? If it is COVID-19, immediately the whole focus should come there. If it is water technology, potable water, how do you give it? Where you may have a simulation, modeling and simulation. There could be a hydrological modeling taking place by a computer engineer or a remote sensing, geoinformatics, a remote sensing person. Then after having detected it, how do we bring that up? So the technology engineering will work on that. Then how do you purify it to make it portable? So you see, this is multidisciplinary research will come in. And ultimately, the management people will say, how do we deliver it to the people which are required even in the rural setup? So this is what is the need of the hour, is multidisciplinary and societal need-based, application-oriented, the research and development is very important. The other one is frugal innovation should be a focus so that the needs of the people at the bottom of the pyramid who belong to a lower socioeconomic strata, their needs are also addressed. So the affordability and accessibility is very important of technology development. So the frugality, not only in terms of cost, but I am telling about the accessibility and affordability will also become important in R&D, which is also required. The fourth will be the quality dimension, quality and cost. If we have to export these products, whether it is defense technologies, or it is biotechnology, or it is any other technology developed in India, that you should be competitive globally, because today it's a globalized world. So our technologies is not only for India, we should be able to export it initially to third world and then even to the developed world. So this is what should be the aim in our R&D, maintain that quality and cost competitiveness, so that it will be export-oriented products will come out from our industries. Then we must also have good laboratory practice as well as a good manufacturing practice, GLP and GMP. These are important in research and development. Your research, if it is medical research, FDA should honor this. That means your quality of clinical trials or preclinical studies are of that quality, even FDA will give approval in the other countries. So such things we should look at a global market rather than only Indian market. So our R&D should be actually gearing towards this. Then we should also assume leadership role in certain areas. Not that only they have developed and indigenously we are developing similarly. In certain area, we should be the first one to start that. So disruption. We want disruptive technologies to come from India. So university should become cradle of innovation. We should become the cradle, because many technologies will come from universities, the disruptive ideas, because the young innovative minds is there, the turnover of the number of students passing out. These are the young and creative innovative minds in universities. And you have a flexible ecosystem in universities. So that is why universities must become cradle of innovation. And so R&D, every university, even engineering college, must do research and development. Even in the national education policy, this is being emphasized more. Research and innovation should be the driver in our education.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing that valuable information. And throughout today, it's been a very enriching session, not only for me, but I'm sure for all the viewers and students. I thank you again for sharing your valuable time and being a part of this initiative, Thoughtful Leadership, sharing your valuable thoughts on on the broad aspects of education, Amity University and Amity University Chhattisgarh. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dhruv. I enjoyed interacting with you and wish you all the best. Also, the College Dunia is a great mission in which you are, and you are an important part of that mission. And wish you all the best in your mission. And God bless you with all success and happiness for you and for your family. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.